The Ice Empress sat upon her throne of crystalline frost, her piercing blue eyes scanning the vast hall of her palace. The walls shimmered with icy fractals, and the air was so cold it bit at the lungs of any who dared enter. She was the undisputed ruler of the Glacial Dominion, a realm of eternal winter where the weak perished and only the strong thrived. For centuries, she had ruled with an iron fist, her power over ice and cold unmatched. Her subjects, the Frostborn, revered her as a goddess. And why wouldn't they? She was immortal, her beauty as sharp and unyielding as the icicles that hung from her palace. But there was one thing the Ice Empress despised above all else: humanity. To her, humans were fragile, fleeting creatures, pathetic beings who squabbled over petty conflicts and burned their short lives in pursuit of meaningless goals. They were weak, both in body and spirit, and their civilizations crumbled like sandcastles before the tide. She had seen their empires rise and fall, their wars and triumphs, and it all seemed so insignificant. How could such creatures ever hope to stand against the might of the Frostborn, let alone her? So when the human emissary arrived at her palace, she was amused. The man stood before her, clad in simple armor, his breath visible in the frigid air. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and a determined set to his jaw. His eyes, a deep brown, met hers without fear. That alone was enough to pique her interest. Most humans trembled in her presence, their fear palpable. But this one was different. "You dare come before me, human," she said, her voice like the crack of ice underfoot. "Do you not know who I am?" "I do," the man replied, his voice steady. "You are the Ice Empress, ruler of the Glacial Dominion. I am Captain Alaric of the Free Cities, and I come to ask for your aid." The Ice Empress laughed, a sound as cold and sharp as a winter storm. "My aid? And why would I, a being of eternal power, lend my strength to the likes of you? Your kind is weak, fleeting. You are nothing more than insects scurrying beneath my notice." Alaric's jaw tightened, but he did not flinch. "Because the Voidspawn are coming. They will consume everything, your realm, my people, all of creation. If we do not stand together, we will fall together." The Ice Empress leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. The Voidspawn were a threat even she could not ignore. Ancient beings of darkness and chaos, they devoured worlds, leaving nothing but emptiness in their wake. But to ally with humans, the thought was absurd. "You think your pitiful armies can make a difference against the Voidspawn," she sneered. "Your kind cannot even withstand the cold of my realm. How do you expect to face the end of all things?" "We are stronger than you think," Alaric said, his voice firm. "We have faced impossible odds before and emerged victorious. Give us a chance, and we will prove our worth." The Ice Empress regarded him for a long moment, then waved a hand dismissively. "Very well, human. I will give you a chance. But not your armies. Alone. If you can survive a single night in the Frostwilds, I will consider your request. But know this: no human has ever survived the Frostwilds at night. You will die, and your kind will be forgotten, as they always have been." Alaric nodded, his expression resolute. "I accept your challenge." The Frostwilds were a desolate expanse of frozen tundra, where the wind howled like a banshee and the cold was so intense it could freeze a man's blood in his veins. Alaric trudged through the snow, his breath coming in short, visible puffs. The sun had set hours ago, and the temperature had plummeted. He could feel the cold seeping into his bones, but he pressed on, his determination unwavering. As he walked, he heard the growls of Frostwolves, their eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. They circled him, their breath steaming in the air. But Alaric drew his sword and stood his ground. The first wolf lunged, and he met it with a swift strike, the blade cutting through its icy fur. The others hesitated, then attacked as one. Alaric fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself. His movements precise and deliberate. By the time the last wolf fell, he was bleeding from several wounds, but he was alive. The night wore on, and the cold grew more intense. Alaric's fingers were numb, and his vision blurred, but he refused to give up. He thought of his people, of the countless lives that depended on him, and he pushed forward. Finally, as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, he collapsed in the snow, his body spent. The Ice Empress watched from her palace as Alaric's limp form was brought before her. Her frost-born guards laid him at her feet, their expressions unreadable. She stepped down from her throne and knelt beside him, her cold hand brushing against his cheek. To her surprise, he was still breathing. "You survived," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "How?" Alaric's eyes fluttered open, and he managed a weak smile. "Because I had to. For my people. For all of us." The Ice Empress stared at him, her mind racing. This human, this fragile, fleeting creature, had done what no other had. He had faced the Frostwilds and emerged victorious. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she had long thought dead: doubt. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "I have underestimated your kind." In the days that followed, the Ice Empress agreed to an alliance with the Free Cities. Together, their combined forces faced the Voidspawn in a battle that would decide the fate of the world. The Frostborn's icy magic and the humans' indomitable spirit proved to be a formidable combination. Though the cost was high, they emerged victorious, the Voidspawn driven back into the abyss from whence they came. After the battle, the Ice Empress stood beside Alaric on a hill overlooking the battlefield. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the snow. "You have proven me wrong, human," she said, her voice softer than before. "Your kind is not weak. You are remarkable." Alaric smiled, his eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun. "And you are not as cold as you pretend to be." For the first time in her long life, the Ice Empress felt the warmth of something she had long forgotten: hope. And as she stood there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she realized that perhaps, just perhaps, humanity was worth saving after all.